Over the course of 10 years, 3 similar girls disappeared in the states of Missouri and Kansas. A tangled series of events prevented the police from solving these cases until chance intervened. Kara Kapetsky was born on February 17, 1990 in Frankfurt, Germany to Rhonda and Michael Kapetsky. She was the only child in this family. Kara had a happy, carefree childhood. Later, her parents divorced and remarried. In a new marriage, Sochi Minjamu's mother gave birth to a son, Thomas. Their family moved to the small town of Belton, in the state of Missouri, USA. About 25,000 people live in this city. Kara was very sociable, cheerful, positive, and she had many friends. Her infectious smile and ringing laughter attracted people. She was an ordinary teenager, loved music, shopping, animals, and, of course, her family. Kara loved her younger brother very much and enjoyed spending time with him, helping her mother. She studied at school and worked part-time in a fast food restaurant. And she dated a chem guy named Kaierl Yust. He was a bad student, then dropped out of school altogether. He took drugs, sang in a rock band. He was covered in tattoos, which scared the girl's parents. The couple had a toxic relationship. Kaierl was a typical abuser, insulted and raised his hand to Kara. Kara also changed after starting a relationship with this guy. She began to skip classes, changed her appearance, and her friends did not recognize her. Her parents asked the girl to leave Kaierl because he was a bad influence on her, but she did not listen to them. At the age of 16, Kara even ran away from home with Kaierl once. Her parents were in a panic. They thought that someone had kidnapped her and were looking for her, but a few days later she returned home as if nothing had happened. Her mother begged her to think about her behavior, leave Kaierl and return to her previous normal life. And it helped. In April 2007, the girl realized that she couldn't live like this any longer. It would end badly for her. She left the guy, went back to school with her old friends and family, planned to go to college, and everything went back to normal. But Kaierl continued to stalk her. He didn't take no for an answer. On April 28, 2007, Carrie had to go to the police. As it turned out, he had been waiting for her the day before when she got home from work and kidnapped her. He choked her and threatened to kill her with a knife at her throat. The guy forced Kara into his car and drove with her for a long time until he finally let her go in a neighboring town. The girls managed to convince him of this. Then she had to hitchhike home at night. She was very scared by this incident, and so she applied for a restraining order from Kaierl. On April 30, 2007, the girl got a restraining order, and on May 1st, Kaierl got his. He was supposed to appear in court on May 10th on charges of abuse. Kara was supposed to testify in court against him, and suddenly disappeared on Friday, May 4th. The day began as usual. Early in the morning, her stepfather left for work. Kara woke up in the morning and was getting ready for school. Rhonda's mother wanted to take her, but Kara decided to walk to school. A few minutes later, the girl called her mother and asked her to wash her uniform and bring her a textbook that she forgot to take to school. The mother threw the uniform in the wash and brought her daughter's textbook to school. Kara took it and went to class, and the mother dropped her son off and went to work. But Kara never returned from school. Her stepfather Jim, who had returned home earlier than everyone else, was worried that she was gone for a long time and began calling her cell phone, but she did not answer. The man called Rhonda and told her that Kara was still not home. Rhonda said that Kara had not warned her that she would be late. That day she was supposed to have a work shift and she needed to take her uniform from home. Jim went to school to look for her, but Kara was not there. It was already Friday evening and the teenagers were not sitting around at school. The parking lot was empty. Then he went to Kara's work, but no one had seen her there either. Kara never missed her shifts. She was responsible and took her job seriously. The stepfather came home to check if Kara had returned, but she was not home either. He started calling all her friends and asking if they knew where she could have gone. The friends said they had not seen her. Rhonda came home, and at 5 p.m. they reported Kara's disappearance to the police. The police came to the parents' house and began to examine Kara's room. No things were missing from the house, but despite all this, the police were in no hurry to look for the girl, because they remembered her previous visit a year ago. The parents assured that Kara had left her bad boyfriend and changed. She would not have run away from home now. The mother felt that something had happened to her. But the police did not look for her and told her to contact them tomorrow if Kara did not show up. The parents were very upset. They tried to look for her themselves at night, drove around the city to places where Kara could be, but all was in vain. They returned home in the morning. Kara did not return. Her phone was still not answered. The parents called her friends again and found out that she had not contacted anyone. Then the parents contacted the police again. They asked to check her ex-boyfriend Kaierl, who was stalking her and against whom she had a restraining order. But the attention of the police, oddly enough, was drawn to the genie. He left for work earlier than everyone else that day, returned home at lunchtime earlier than everyone else, even before Kara arrived. And the police suspected that he could have been involved in her disappearance. The stepfather assured that he would never do anything bad to Carrie. She was like a daughter to him, and he had nothing to do with her disappearance. Her stepfather passed a polygraph test and cooperated with the police, so he was eliminated from the list of suspects. The police officers requested CCTV footage from the school to see if she had ever left. Finally, the investigators turned their attention to Kaierl, whom the parents believed was responsible for their daughter's disappearance. They began to study him and realized that he was indeed a person of interest to the investigation. The detectives called him in for questioning. Kaierl said that he last saw Kara on May 3rd after she worked. On May 4th, she called him, but he missed the call, and when he tried to reach her at 11 o'clock in the morning, Kara did not answer. The police found out that Kara did call him, but at 9:13 in the morning, and he called her back at 9:20 in the morning. This contradicted his words regarding the time of the call, but there was no evidence against him, and the police had to let him go. At this time, the CCTV footage was ready, and the police began to study it. They found that Kara left school at 9:19 in the morning, a minute before Kaierl called. Before that, they saw on the footage that Kara was talking to some girl at school. The detectives found this girl. It turned out that she was her friend. The friend said that Kara offered her to skip one of her least favorite classes, but she refused and Kara left, saying that she would come to the next class, but did not return. Investigators decided to check Kara's locker at school and found her textbooks, notebooks, and her bank card there. It turned out that there was almost no money on the card. The girl had not yet received her salary, and there was no activity on her account after her disappearance. They could not track her mobile phone. There was no activity on it either. The version that she had run away became less and less likely, because all her belongings were left at home and she did not even have money with her. The investigation reached a dead end, and the police asked the public for help through the media, showing a photo of Kara. The police were inundated with calls from residents of a neighboring town, who claimed to have seen Kara in a grocery store. The police arrived there and realized what was going on. There was a girl working in the store who looked very similar to Kara, but she was a nanny. Around the same time, another girl, Kelsey Smith, went missing from a neighboring town. She was last seen at 7 p.m. on June 2, 2007, in the parking lot of a Target store in Overland Park, Kansas. So some believed that the two cases were connected. Rumors began to spread around the area that a serial killer had appeared who was hunting girls. Kelsey's killer was found on CCTV and arrested 4 days later. It was 26-year-old Edwin Hall. He confessed to killing Kelsey, but denied involvement in Kara's disappearance, and the case was again at a standstill. 3 years later, the police finally decided to organize a large-scale search for Kara. About 230 people took part in it, but it led to nothing. The police had no leads, and it seemed that the case would never be solved. A few years later, a friend of Kaierl's contacted the police and said that he confessed to him that he killed Kara and buried her body in the forest. Allegedly, they had a fight because she did not want to be with him, and Kaierl did not want to let her go. He strangled her and then looked at her lifeless body for several minutes. It turned out that another girl, Kaierl's friend, also heard this story from him, but did not believe him. Based on this testimony, the police could not arrest Kaierl. They needed more compelling evidence. In 2011, Kaierl also spoke about killing Kara and even threatened his girlfriend Candy Smecius that he would do the same to her. That's why she was afraid to tell the police. Kaierl beat and strangled her, and also killed her 3 kittens in front of her. That's why she was very scared of him. She reported the abuse to the police. Kaierl was even arrested for this, and Candy got a restraining order against him. Over the years, Kaierl has had many problems with the law, for theft and possession of drugs, but he always denied any involvement in Kara's disappearance. In 2015, he was jailed again for possession of drugs. His cellmate said that Kaierl was really paranoid and asked him to provide him with an alibi for Kara's case. In February 2016, he was released from prison and met a new girlfriend, 21-year-old Jessica. She was a kind, sweet girl, worked as a pastry chef. On September 10, 2016, Jessica went missing. Her mother contacted the Belton police and reported her missing. The police began searching for Jessica. It turned out that she was last seen by her friends on September 9th, when she was leaving a party with Kaierl. At the party itself, Kaierl behaved inappropriately. He got drunk, became very jealous and started yelling at Jessica. Then they left around 11 o'clock in the evening. Jessica's friend said that he was very hot-tempered, aggressive, and Jessica did not like it. She wanted to break up with him. Later, on September 10th, Jessica's car was found hot in Kansas. Firefighters put out the fire and it turned out that there was no one inside. Suddenly, Kaierl's brother Jessup Carter contacted the police. He said that he saw Kaierl set Jessica's car on fire so that the fire would destroy all traces of him. And then Kaierl confessed that he strangled Jessica, who wanted to leave him, and he could not come to terms with it. According to his brother, Kaierl should have burns on his face and hands, and he should now be in his house. The police arrested the guy there. He really did have burns on his face and body, as well as scratches, like defensive wounds. Kaierl was initially charged only with setting the car on fire, and investigators began collecting evidence against him in the case of Kara and Jessica, but they could not find anything. He spent 7 months in prison for arson, and it was not until April 3, 2017, that a breakthrough occurred. A Grebnik came across human remains in the forest and reported it to the police. The police, who arrived at this place in the forest, discovered an older burial site nearby with other human remains. An examination confirmed that these were the remains of Kara and Jessica. 10 years later, Kara's parents finally found her body and were able to bury her later. And the most offensive thing is that they initially knew who killed their daughter, but they could not prove it. Kaierl was charged with the murder of 2 girls in October 2017, and his trial was supposed to start in 2019, and then one strange thing happened. Kaierl's brother Jessup, who was supposed to testify in the trial against him, unexpectedly committed suicide while in prison in 2018. He was in prison for running from a police officer after he was stopped for speeding. Kaierl's lawyers insisted on a psychiatric examination. It showed that he is completely sane. Then the lawyers began to file countless petitions for additional examination of the remains, for the postponement of the date and place of the trial, delaying the case. The case was also delayed due to quarantine. In the end, all petitions were rejected, and the trial date was set for July 2020. At the trial, Kaierl denied his involvement in the murder of the girls, blaming his brother, who committed suicide while feeling guilty while in prison for another crime. The lawyers insisted that there was no material evidence against the defendant, only the testimony of witnesses who were not credible. The parents and friends of the girls spoke of Kaierl's cruel, obsessive behavior. The ex-wife told how he threatened her, killed her kittens, and confessed to killing Kara. Numerous witnesses also confirmed that he confessed to them to killing Kara. The prosecution insisted that Kaierl last video JCQ met with both girls who did not want to be with him, and this became the motive for the murders. The jury found him guilty of the unintentional murders of the girls, and Kaierl was sentenced to 45 years in prison. The parents of the girls were finally able to breathe a sigh of relief when their daughter's killer was sent to prison. Their shared grief brought the parents closer together, and they even buried their daughters next to each other.